a second.
Hello. Welcome back from a long Memorial weekend. So we are on the YOML show, a year of magical learning. Today we are on episode 75, and Chris just mentioned this is one of his favorite reflections. So let's let him introduce it.
Yeah. So not one of my favorite books. One of my favorite reflections from a book.
That's what I say.
But
Favorite reflection.
So this one is it's a book. The book is called "The War of Art." It's "Break Through the Blocks and Win Your Inner Creative Battles" by the author Stephen Pressfield. And my reflection title. Oh, I'll give a quick description about this book. This book is the description says, "Think the war of art as tough love for yourself." And this book centers around what the author Stephen Pressfield talks about as the resistance to creative work, right? Like, just this abstract concept of the resistance that, when you want to get up and go do something and the resistance pulls you back, or when you want to go write that novel that you've been wanting to write, but the resistance, stops you from typing the first letter, whenever that meaningful work project, or exercise or whatever it is you're trying to do, in the resistance, it's about fighting the resistance basically, and the war of art, right? Of trying to bring out from what's inside of you, but then that the scaredness, the doubt, the whatever, the resistance is what he calls it, right?
Okay.
So it's a pretty short, little fast read. I mean, I enjoyed the book. It wasn't like necessarily one of my like top 5 favorites or anything like that, but in particular, this book, the reason why I enjoyed this reflection so much was because of the circumstances in which I wrote it. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. So the reflection title is "Beating the Resistance is Easy If You Have a Real Why." So I got to give you context of when I wrote this particular reflection. Well, never mind. I'll just kind of go through the reflection. So as of that writing, it had been 607 days since I had lost Amelia, since she had passed away. And it had also been 607 straight days since I've, woken up every single day to read for 30 minutes, write for 30 minutes, and exercise for 30 minutes. I honestly, when I was sitting down and writing this whole entire thing, if you would have told me before my daughter was born that it would have been 607 days, which, just so you know, today it's like 845 now, or something along those lines. Back when I wrote this, it was it's like 760. I have to go look it up real fast, but either way, this is like 6 or 7 months ago when I wrote this. And if you had told myself, pre Amelia, that I would have ever done that, I would have said that's not possible. Like, I mean, there's no way that I'm gonna pretend for 607 straight days that nothing is gonna impede my desire to want to go do these things that I wanted to go do, like, a tragedy coming up, or a work trip, or a travel for fun, or I don't know, whatever you can imagine, like, throw out there of a something that should have stuck into my path and didn't, to stop me from doing this stuff. And it really kind of just blows my mind sometimes when I even think about it at this point in time, of going like, how am I doing this kind of stuff? And here's the secret to how I do it. On this particular day, on this particular writing, well, here, let me backtrack. The secret to how I do it is Amelia, right? It's about understanding. It's stuff that we talk about all the time. It's understanding your values, understanding your purpose, and understanding your why. Why do you get up every single day to do what you need to go do? Why is this living this way important or not important for yourself to go do? For me, every single morning when I wake up, I channel Amelia. I think about her. I look at her in my journal. I look at her pictures. I read my core values. I read my why. I think about everything that she went through, and how inspiring she was for me. And those days when I don't want to go do those things, or those days when there's the resistance, if you will, was blocking me, it's not even a choice. It's just easy. Like, I think of everything that she endured, and I'm like, I can do that. So as I was writing this particular reflection, though, this was literally one of the mornings that I was writing this, that for all intents and purposes, the Chris before Amelia, the resistance would have beaten me. I was in Atlanta. I was in a hotel. It was the first time that we had traveled after COVID, as a team, to go meet a bunch of my team members and things like that down in our Atlanta offices. I was hungover. We had just gone out the night before to a dinner until 1 a.m., 2 a.m. in the morning. We drank too much. I had a flight at 11 a.m. that day. I needed to get my hotel, pack up all my crap, get out of the hotel, run to the airport, get some food, whatever, yada yada yada. And I woke up at 5:30 in the morning. I sat down at this stupid little hotel desks they always have that are uncomfortable, and I forced myself to write this reflection. And it just so happened that this was the book that I picked to write. And I was like, man, beating the resistance is easy when you have a real why behind it, right? When you there wasn't even a choice for me. Like it was if Amelia could endure what she could endure, and I can take a little bit of a hangover or being stuck in a hotel and not being able to write in my comfortable environment, or having to worry about getting on this flight. And as soon as I got done writing this thing, I put on some clothes, went down to the hotel gym, got a workout in, listened to an audiobook as I was on the treadmill, and called it a day. I got my reading, my writing, and my exercise in, the things that reflect values that I want to live, and the way that I want to live my life. And that's how you beat the resistance. So this book never really resonated for me, because I was like, beating the resistance is easy if you have a real why. Would love to, I'll just pause there, but I love to get your guys' thoughts in general about how do you combat the resistance in your own life, and then B, just thoughts on the reflection overall.
Trio, you first.
Okay, so for me, I think I can relate to you, Chris. I mean, I think I spend enough time with you now that most of what you said, it's also, I mean, at this time, I think your frame of mind and my frame of mind are pretty much aligned.
Right.
And to me, I completely understand why that is. And to me, art is a free flow, a creative endeavor. And so by default, to manifest art, it requires you to be in a flow state.
Right.
And by default, everything is going to have this friction to prevent art from forming. And in order to get to form, I mean, you have to get into that free flow. And that's, to me, is what I think of when I'm hearing the book about the book, The War of Art. It's essentially, how do I unleash this creativity to create the things that is called art?
Right.
But by default, everything else is resisting. Is everything else it has by its nature friction, because with inertia, when it is stationary, it's hard to make it move, make it manifest itself. Same thing with flow. But the thing is, and for that, for the most part, I think most of the art is very, very hard to come by, just because of that particular force that is kind of forced upon you. But I think you hit the nail on the head by having a secret. That secret is that if you have a reason, a strong enough reason, the resistance is not even
it's barely even registers.
Barely a comparison. Right? It's not even registering, because your why, your force of your why is so much overpower the frictions of having this flow. So it makes it easy for you to do what you really want to do. And I think for you, you have that atomic bomb that kind of ingrained into your mindset, your mind, kind of sears into your mind what it is, the image of your daughter beating the odds and impressing everybody else. And for you to kind of have that as your weight versus something that is trivial, is it's no comparison. And that's how I see this reflection. And I agree with you. I think if you can find that particular why, the real why, that why gonna be so much heavy than any resistance, any force that can prevent you from getting to where you want to be. So if you want to say, I'm going to take Amelia's inspirations and to live a life and to do your exercise, your reading, and your writing every day, nothing will stop you.
Right. I agree. I spent 92 days in the NICU with my son and doing this stuff. You know what I mean? Like the days when Felicia was literally stuck in bed in the hospital while we were waiting, where she had gone into labor early with Luca again, and there was 3 days while we were waiting in the hospital. I went up and I ran the stairs in the hospital for 45 minutes, like
Awesome.
I didn't care. I mean, it was just,
I think
like,
when you put things into perspective, it's nothing like to run up the stairs, to have to juggle multiple things. Those are trivial. I mean,
right.
Thinking back of the book, The Hard Things About Hard Things, right? It is hard, right, for somebody to, have to shut down their business. But compare that to having your daughter in the NICU and fighting for her life, and then that's in perspective. When you put things into perspective, there's no comparison. And I think to me, this is real important. It's about how do you overcome this? If you have to find a way to do it, and that way would be to find your real why. And once you find it, then I would say there's not much in this world that will be able to stop you.
I agree 100%. I mean, yeah. So I'd love to get your thoughts.
Depends. So I like this. I like this book, and I like your reflection, Chris. And I think, Gio was talking about your why. If you have a why, you can do anything. I think it comes back to what we talked about it was last time I missed, but the whole quest thing. Like, what is your quest that you're on? And and if you are very stalwart in your quest, like, yeah, you can overcome. Oh, you're at a hospital, so what? You can work out anyway. Who cares?
Right.
Like overcoming those things. And one thing, Chris, I like that you do, and I think it helps you focus, is looking at it at your why every day and looking at your values, because we are what we focus on. Or like, now we are, I mean, kind of that is kind of true. We are what we focus on. And so I think that really probably helps. I wonder if you would be able to do it if you did not, and I'm not like challenging you to this, but like if you didn't look at those repeatedly, if you would end up like falling off.
You can drift. Yeah. I mean, you certainly, I've certainly found times where I've drifted a little bit, not to the point in time where the resistance is beating me. But so this is funny that you say that, because like I didn't touch on this. I touched on it in the reflection, but I didn't touch on it here. It's the the atomic habits, right? Like it's the power of habit. I'm on autopilot most of the time with a lot of this stuff. I've set my course for my quest and my purpose, yada yada yada. The stuff we were just talking about. Most of the time, every single day, I'm on autopilot through these things, right? It's the times like when I'm sitting in a hotel, hungover, have a flight to catch, and that I have to like really pull back and go to that next level down to beat the resistance, which is Amelia, right? Like that, like these days, like I don't have to invoke Amelia all the time to get up and go do this stuff. A lot of the stuff was the power of habits, start to set in and take over a lot of these other things. And everything, you start to march toward, like you said, toward your quest, your purpose, whatever that is, but yeah, you're right. Like you can drift for sure. And that's why I put in measures to make sure that I don't drift. And that's my daughter.
Like why it's important, like maybe to like decorate your house with idols, or, put people who are like to keep you going on your path. And, we can get in this default network mode. So I'm reading Michael Pollan's book about the psychedelics, and they're talking about how we get in this default mode network, and we cannot be as creative. We can end up becoming just like more rigid in who we are, and how psychedelics end up like opening up like our expansion. And it does that by sort of tweaking, like getting rid of the default network, and your brain activity starts like making all these connections that usually aren't there, because like your default network mode, which is like kind of this throttling valve to like throttle all the reducing valve, let's say,
right,
take in all these insights or whatever, and actually reduce it to like what we're used to. But what I think is unique about the quest that you're on and the habits that you do is like exercise is known to like help neurogenesis and like help out new connections. Writing and reflection can do the same thing.
Yep.
And then it's like expansion of knowledge, can kind of do the same thing, build new neural networks.
Right.
And I find, they talk about in the book how meditation, can also end up, they looked at meditators and people who do psychedelics, and certain brain activity ends up being similar. And I find myself when I meditate that I do end up getting like spontaneous reflections or insights that I don't think I would have gotten, and like end up be like creatively solving problems other ways. And so that's one thing that I think is good about, because I think, you know, it can be bad to, or bad, I can be restrictive to just do the same thing every day with no modification. But if you end up doing those things that end up kind of expanding your consciousness or expanding your creativity, I think that those things can be good.
100%. Yeah. I mean, these are abstract. I don't care if somebody took away these activities were chosen by my values, right? Like, I mean,
Exactly.
it doesn't, you could, somebody could tell me tomorrow I can never write ever again for the rest of my life. That's okay. Like, the goal isn't to write every
Yep.
day. The goal is to reflect. The goal is to
It is
like,
to reflect. So
right.
it's like, I think if you had a, you know, a goal though, or like a habit, hey, I want to eat a pound of red meat every day,
Right.
or something
So,
like
it's very
that. Probably
specific.
wouldn't a good thing. Like, no, I'm gonna go through this resistance even though my cholesterol is through the roof, you know.
Mhm.
So that's just kind of like a side note there. But how do you, the question is, how do you combat the resistance?
How do you? Yeah.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I think I get inspiration from quotes and from other people. And when I end up seeing like some possibility out there, but also like, yes, sticking to my goals, I think really helps. I think it is true. Like having a why really does help, because you know, life is so complex and there's so much changing. If you don't stay focused, you do end up like flowing like the wind, and you could go anywhere. And that kind of ends up making us feel like maybe we don't have like a certain level of mastery that we would like to have. And there's 4 pillars that are important when they talk about, like, you know, kids feeling at like they belong in a society. And I think the same thing for adults is feeling like you belong, feeling like you can be generous, feeling like you can be independent, and feeling like you have mastery.
Yeah.
And I've really been kind of reflecting on those things and how they just deal with adult life. So anyway, I don't want to sidetrack too much about how I combat resistance, but I think just like a lot of like quotes, and just when I end up seeing possibility, and I think, yeah, like having an important why helps me combat resistance, whether it's a health, you know, like I'm on a 3-day, I'm probably going to do a 4-day fast. And one thing is, you know, end up like looking at the health benefits of periodically doing fasting. So it can kind of like help me combat the resistance, you know?
Yeah. I love it. That's fantastic. And I, by the way, I agree with you with the meditation side of everything. I've been really trying to, if you haven't noticed, a lot of the stuff that I do is more so focused on the molecule of more driving, right?
I just got that book today. I'm so excited.
Right. Well, it's really good. So a lot of the habits that Amelia and I have built since she passed away have been more focused on trying to regain my imagination, because it was destroyed by what happened with Amelia. Yep. Right. So I don't think that I'm just now starting to understand these things over this whole journey. Right. But this is what manifested out of my reimagining my life over time of, you know, finding, this is really about these things that I do is really about spending time with Amelia. I mean, when I go exercise every day, I try to do it with Amelia. When I ride every day, I try to do it with Amelia and for Amelia. I talk about Amelia constantly. I want other people to know her, and I want her to understand what she meant in my life. When I learn stuff, you know, I'm thinking you know, it's not that I'm learning with her at the same time, but I do it in my mind together with her. Like, this is us living for two. This is my purpose, right? And trying to live our shared values together, and do the things that she can't do. But, you know, I want to be focused on that stuff, which is why it's so easy for me to quote unquote beat the resistance. However, going back to your point about meditation, I'm just now starting to understand the value also of the here and now, versus, you know, always focused on my imagination with Amelia. And it's really helped, you know, the past, you know, couple months. I've been spending a lot more time trying to focus on the here and now, to balance, because that's one of my values, right? It's to find, you know, that balance between the molecule of more and the here and now. And there is a balance that needs to happen, right? You know, so yeah, it's interesting though. I mean, I agree with you on meditation.
Trio?
Yeah, so for me, I think, you know, having a why is really good. And having a habit, it's good, but I think, beyond the habit, right? For example, it's your belief of who you are, versus the habit. For example, you are a learner, right? So you say, I'm gonna read. We're not reading the same thing every day. We're reading something different. And so I think that's you embracing an entity. You embracing, like, first he's embracing this living for two concept, the entity of itself makes him to kind of choose a value that's important to him. And doing that, I think, give him the habits. The habits to me isn't the glue that makes you who you are. And so, like you read, right? You read something different. You write, you think about different things. You exercise, you make progress. You don't do the same thing every day. You make 20 push-ups, and then you have 25 push-ups, and then you have 50 push-ups. So that's the progress. And so for me, embracing and believing in a concept, in a why you chose for yourself, you believe that you are a writer, then the things you do going to reflect that value of writing. So to improve on your vocabulary, improve on your storytelling, and improve on your your meticulous details and creativity, whatever it is, man. That's once you embrace it, your habits actually follows it. So it's not the your belief creates your habits. The habits don't create your belief, because if you take the habits for with the atomic habit, for example, you do whatever, but it easily can be knocked off just because some force comes in and say, well, today I'm not going to exercise, and easily it can just knock that off, and you be off track and be off to another direction and trajectory just so easily with a little nudge. And so I don't believe in the habit itself, because the habit is saying that because you have the power of inertia, if you continue to do that habit, will continue unless something knocks it off. And because without your point of reference, the direction that you're aiming for, your goal that you want to achieve, then like trivial things can take you off your track. And so I really do believe that you have to embrace yourself and kind of like immerse yourself as a concept, as an entity, or whatever it is that you want to be, Aaron or in Chris, like whatever it is, you want to be a writer, you want to be this living for two kind of guy, or you want to be this healthy person, you want to be this a joyful life person, or whatever the case may be, that will drive you. That's your core, your cornerstone of what makes you want to do the action that relates to that. So for me, I think that's, to me, would be the basis of the the resistance. And I think inspirations is good as well, but at the same time, unless it aligns with the values or the thing, the concept that you're trying to anchor on, it's not gonna last that long.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's habits aren't the strategy. Habits are a tactic, to accomplish
accomplish that goal. I think, and who you want to be. And I think what's interesting is like young children, like, what I say below 5, like don't really have an ego. They it's like only like as we get older, we end up like kind of developing it, and then like finding our fit in society. Like we decided, like, either people can choose to have a quest and actually like really define themselves, or they can just kind of keep floating along. And yet like everybody has an ego inside that, but it's kind of like, we have the opportunity to like actually, we or anybody has the opportunity like to create and kind of chisel, though, kind of like the Michelangelo sculpture, to actually chisel what we become, which I think, Chris, is like, kind of the journey that you're on. But then maybe that I'm on, I'm sure maybe Tree was on, I don't know.
We all are. Everyone's on that. I mean, it just depends on whether or not you want to take some ownership and involvement. I mean,
you're right. Everyone wants to get it, but not everyone wants to do the work, though, to get there, though.
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, I
the thing
mean,
is, like, I mean, I told Chris, well, once I read that book while we sleep, right, I prioritize my sleep. And when I read that book as well, I quit the caffeine and I don't look back, and I don't even get tempted by the caffeine, just because it aligns with the why of me want to take care of my health. I understand about, health is going to come first before you can have happiness. It can, you can't help anyone. I can't help my kids. I can't help anyone if I'm not healthy. And so whatever I did, it put me on that trajectory. But at the same time, when I walk across a coffee grinder, area, it smells good, but it doesn't tempt me to want to go back and drink the caffeine.
Yeah. So Trio, what is your why, or what is your quest?
My quest is, like I said, to be as healthy as I can, because, one of the biggest regret I had is I sacrificed my health. I took it for granted when I was younger, and I abuse it until then it fails me. And then this is when I said, when we're younger, we are sacrificing our health to chase wealth. And then when we're older, we have all this wealth, we would trade every single penny to get some of it back. And I'm at that pivotal point.
And I think when you even say, like, health is a lot of things too. When you, like, think about, you can look at, like, health being financially healthy. You can think of being socially healthy,
Right.
So I think like health, or whatever, like a quest to health is like, you get someone can say, oh, that's small, whether it's just eating right, but that's a lot even inside that.
Right. It's a pretty big, in my case, it's everything I do is around health, right? So, me learning is health. But for me, I prioritize my order of physical health, because if my body is not jerking me around, I'm at peace. My mental health will not be deteriorating. And once I have mental health, then I can build things, I can be creative, and I can have financial health. Because it goes in that order. So I have to take care of the first things first, which is
you go body,
mind, and then financial.
Yeah.
Right. So the mind comes from, like, if you're aching, there's no way you have mental health. I guarantee you, because I've been through it. It doesn't work. If your legs or your shoulders are hurting, that's all you're feeling.
It is hard. It does. Yeah, no, I agree with that one for sure. That does, days when my body hurts or something like that, like it is really hard to, like, have a positive outlook on life, when you're just, it just hurts.
If you're not mentally clear, and how can you be creative? How can you do good works if your mind are not clear? If your mind is tugging at you all the time, so how can you focus? How can you have a flow? And if you don't have that, then how can you provide values? Without value, no one's going to give you money for exchange for that value.
It's interesting, what you were just saying made me think about beating the resistance. You have two different options, I would say. Well, first off, you have to choose if you do want to beat the resistance. I mean, some people may just be dead inside and just give up, right? So, like, that is an option, I guess. I mean, I don't think anybody that we know would ever be doing that option, because we wouldn't be hanging out with them. But that is an option. The other option is you use sheer willpower to beat the resistance. And I was trying to look it up.
Sheer willpower doesn't work, because power, it means is energy, whether that's mental energy or not. It's going to get consumed.
Yep.
When it's depleted, what you do? You go back to where it was. That you stop. It stopped. Willpower cannot hold it.
100%. So they did some studies that I can't remember. I just read this recently in some book. There was, like, it said there were some, like, psychology studies around willpower in general. They used, like, I'll butcher the experiment, but it doesn't matter. The findings of the experiment were willpower was literally a finite resource. Like, it is, if you use it on something, like, you don't have it available for something else. Like, it needs to, like, recharge and refill and yada yada yada. What I've personally found is the third option of this whole entire thing is to do what we're talking about, which is use your leverage shit that you care about, like, you know, values and your why and purpose and things that has an infinite source of energy to power you forward. Like, it is not ever depleting. I don't ever think of Amelia and feel depleted ever. Like, it will never happen. Like, I will always
It's
be
always
recharged.
like you basically have to structure your environment so that you're always going downhill. You're sliding downhill.
That's something I'm privy to. Is like, I mean, where I got from the habits book is, yeah, like structure your environment. That, Chris, yeah, could even like come down to like, yeah, looking at your values every day, you know, like hold on to things in your environment that do give you that infinite amount of energy, whether it's Amelia, or I was trying to think what it is for me. Like, part of it's my dad, to be honest, like just his just ability to keep trying to make things work and never giving up.
Enduring. Yeah, that's Amelia too. I mean, that's literally the same thing. That's what I think of when I think of Amelia. She endures. She's a shining example of humanity's greatest gift of endurance, you know, like just fighting, you know.
Yeah, like my dad has gone through like a lot of shit and like some awkward, you know, disheartening time for his life or whatever, but like he just keeps on going, you know.
Right. And that it's inspiring. Like, when you think about it and you're like, well, shit, if my dad can do it, I can do it. If Amelia can fight every single day for a chance at life in this world, I can sure as shit get up and do what I say I would have. I'm not even asking to do a lot. I'm asking to do the stuff that I say that I actually care about anyway. Like, I'm like, that blows my mind sometimes, you know, that people are like, just don't have the time for, you know, XYZ. I mean, hell,
it's just like,
you know,
it's like how do you have the willpower to eat every day? It's like, dude, I have to eat every day. That's I mean, using willpower? No, you want to.
Exactly. It's inviting. It's energy. I've, you know, perfect example is what's going on today. So I work in sales. The end of the month, the end of the quarter, those are always really, really high stress times usually for people in my line of business. When I was back in the day when I worked at Angie's List, I mean, literally people's jobs are on the line every end of every month and at the end of every quarter. I mean, it is an intense environment sometimes, and it can get the better of you, man. Like, I mean, it can suck you in. You'll feel like you're staring at a computer screen or waiting for a contract to come in or your email all day long, because, you know, like, that's what's most important to you. Like, I fast forward, that was my life before this stuff, right? You know, your whole entire day would just get wiped out. Like, your highs and lows. It's a roller coaster of, did we win? Did we lose? You know, today I had 2 different contracts that were supposed to be coming in at the end of the month. I did everything I could to do it. I didn't really care. Like, they didn't happen. Like, and I don't care like that. But what I did today was I went on a run. I did a workout. I read a book when in the middle of the day. Normally when I was younger, I would have been freaking out, just like pouring sweat, like, you know, fighting all day, every day. Like, I read a book while I was just sitting here, you know, just like killing time, you know, then spent time with Luca, you know, went and ran a few errands, you know. I did some meditation. I did some breathing exercises. I'm like, I was doing not to like distract myself, because I was just like, this is what I'd rather be doing anyway. I don't even give a shit. And you know, then my boss is texting me like, hey, when's this thing? I don't know. It'll happen if or it doesn't. Like, I don't care. Like, I mean, it's not a big deal.
When I know.
Yeah, I mean, I it's either gonna happen or it's not. Like, I mean, what doesn't matter to me. Like, you know, I'm not gonna be I'm not gonna let other circumstances of a artificial timeline anyway. Like, who gives a shit if it gets signed today or tomorrow? Like, in reality, you know, nobody.
Yeah, you really just like, I mean, you don't care about your job. Like, you aren't gonna get nervous over your job, you know, because you realize it maybe doesn't, like, it's not worthwhile for you to put that type of energy in there.
Right, but that's the resistance, though. That should have what I was trying to get at is today should have beaten me. Like,
the resistance is not strong enough.
Right.
Like, your fire, your core values and knowing what's important to you, it's so strong now that the things like that, it becomes trivial in comparison.
Correct.
So what was the resistance then?
The resistance is this massive pull to want to go fight and claw and scratch, to go get these contracts in, to stare at your screen all day long, to say, look, everything else needs to come secondary.
You fought the resistance because why?
because of Amelia, because of everything that we've been talking about. Like I'm saying, I did the stuff that I wanted to do today.
Because
like I didn't.
if you
gotcha.
fight the resistance, then you have a mental stress, because whether you have like stress to a point where you really feel it or you don't, right? But to stare at the screen and hoping the contract gets signed in like today because it's the end of the freaking month, right? It's a mental weight that you don't need,
Right.
right? You think
It's
about
immense
it.
pressure. It's immense of pressure. Like when I was younger, I would have woken up, fired up, and like, I got to get all in today. Focus 100%, locked in. Like everything else comes secondary. My kids, my health, my everything comes secondary to getting these
So
friggin'
I can
contracts
exercise
done.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
I can eat tomorrow. I can help my wife tomorrow.
Well, it's like, I mean, you maybe would have been like pinned out like that's your job and that's your income, and there's no other way to like, put food on the table or something without that or something. Like you probably would have had like more of a closed mind or something.
No. I'm not saying I don't care about my job. I didn't say I didn't do everything that I needed to do to try to get that done. I'm saying that it doesn't that's
not the most
it didn't
important
change
thing.
It didn't change what I say I wanted to do today that mattered most to me.
Oh,
I didn't say that.
I see what you're saying. You still, I see.
First things
your
first.
priorities were like do the things that you need to do.
Right.
It's first things first. I mean, that's the principle. First things first. The most important thing, right? Yes, job is important, but it's not the most important.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. That was what I was getting at. It's not. It should have beaten me. It should have knocked my first things first off the track. This should have been, one of the 600 or whatever day it's on now.
Yeah. But like in Trio's point there, Chris, because I think at some point it could come up though, like in terms of combating the resistance, like there might be a time when like maybe in a day it's not appropriate to write, or it's not appropriate to work out.
It's not going to happen because that's when I spend time with my daughter. So that's like telling me that I can't spend time.
I don't think, but Chris, I don't think that you're okay. So you said like, because I guess because of your quest to spend time with your daughter, or I just wonder that. I mean, do you ever see a time like that coming that you could end up not doing one of those habits because it turns out your priorities in terms of put first things first changes, or not changes, but you see what I'm saying?
No, I will always learn something every single day. I will always reflect every single day, and I will always try to play and have some fun and do things these are all my balance. I will always these are all my values. Like I will always try to do that no matter what is going on in my life. Like, I mean, I don't care if I was literally dying of cancer and in a hospital room or something like that, and I couldn't even move. Like I would find a way to go do something that reflected that lived the values that I care about. I would find a way. Like, I mean, that's what I care about.
And that's the thing is when you're dying of cancer, what's the thing you want to do versus the thing that, hey, I'm going to watch another episode on some TV series. I'm going to work extra hour. I mean, what is it you want to do, right? What is important to you that you have to do even when you die of cancer?
What I care about.
Exactly. When you die of cancer, it's even more of a reason to do it.
Right.
And ignore everything else because, well, extra hour work, extra contract is not going to do nothing for me. Right. But if I am embracing this concept, this entity, this value, then that's the thing I will be doing on my last day on earth.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think, if you have a goal, it's like, you can accept the responsibility of then doing it, I mean, we're always responsible for creating our goals. So, and like that, because I'm thinking like, I might be different. I think I might, have some values, but ours are different though. And also
right. There should be.
Yeah. So, I
mean, you have a different purpose. I think we all have a purpose.
Everybody's gonna have one. I mean, it's not gonna be the same.
Exactly. Because, and it's what also it's like, like whatever, however that purpose, not however that purpose, but it's important to feel like yourself in a way. So, doing what makes you yourself. accomplish your
Exactly.
goals or be who you want to be. And that's why I think like reflection is good and everything. And I don't know. Also, I'm just interested about psychedelics and the different networks and patterns I can get. So probably within a month, I might do some. Who knows? We'll find out.
What's really interesting about psychedelics, and Drew and I have talked about this many times of just different drugs in general. I think that I don't want to speak for you, Drew, but I think this is probably how you feel as well. But the more and more I go down this journey, the more and more that I'm convinced that I get the same feeling that you would get from different drugs by doing the stuff that I do every single day. I've just done it so long now at this point in time that like I've found a way to make it sustainable throughout my life without having to get that like a drug just basically will jumpstart you. Right. You don't have to go through 607 days of this of all the shit that's going on in my head that I'm talking to you about right now, where beating the resistance is really easy. You get a nice shortcut, and you probably get that feeling and you're like, oh man, well, at least that feeling exists. Like that's the cool part, is like I know that feeling exists because I feel that way. Like
well, you don't know exactly what you would feel like, but I do think you're correct though, that like that doing those things, like I mean, because doing some of those things does show to give certain similar neural pathways or experiences, whether like the breath work or meditation or exercise as well.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean,
like fasting is another one. That's why sometimes like I do these little fasts here and there just to see kind of what I get from it.
Or exercise, when you get endorphins and a dopamine hit, and or all the stuff that I do every single day with more and more dopamine hit, or like you said, when you like different meditation and other practices and things like that, you do it long enough, like you'll chemically alter your brain in the ways that a drug, that a psychedelic or any other kind of drug will ultimately do as well.
Yep.
Yeah, so for me, my thought on psychedelics is that it actually creates new connections, so you can experience different emotions and experiences and visions or whatever. And that's, to me, that's a shortcut, because it allows you to, the mushroom likes to network itself, so it likes to branch, so from one node to the next node. So when you have psychedelic in your brain, it's actually going to bridge a different node that didn't have connection before to have a connection, so that your electrical current is actually going through those connections. But the problem with psychedelic is that it only happens once. The moment that the drug's off, right, that the connection no longer exists. But if you do it through meditations and through what Chris is doing and what you do over the organic period of time, that connection will stay and will be strong and will be available. So just imagine.
But I mean, psychedelics can end up showing you an insight, but then it's up to you from there to like nurture those new connections you got.
Yeah, I agree. That's no different than what we're talking about. I mean, it's up to me every single day to nurture that stuff. Like I can't, like if I just shut it off today, exactly the way that I live my life. Like you asked me, like,
but that's the thing is, I don't think anyone can do it though. I mean, people who has done psychedelics and done mushrooms, they see the visions and they were creative, and then they're not creative no more.
I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't know if that's a true fact.
I don't know that I know the answer to that one either, but I think
a lot of times say, hey, I saw this in my dream, or I wrote this song, or I saw this strategies or whatever when I did mushroom. But for me to get it again, I need to do it again. I need to be on the mushroom again.
So that's the funny thing, is I guess kind of exactly what I'm getting at is you could do those same things without being on shrooms. Like it's a shortcut to get there. And then they're like, well, but the long way is a lot harder.
My point is that it has pros and cons, because the long way, it takes longer, but it's stable. It's there when you need it because it's already created. The other one, it's short, but it's very like it doesn't last long. I mean, it just it's like a firework. Like it happens. You are you experience like creativities in whatever it is that you see, but then after it wears off, right, that connection disappears because you are not actually making the connection that mushroom is.
No, you're making the connections. I think like your experience, your consciousness.
Yeah, I
Right,
agree.
right. But the thing
I think
is,
you're making that.
Like, yeah, the working out or the reflecting is like making that, but it's still like an experience of your consciousness.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with you, Snow, on that one. I think what True's trying to say is it's not sustainable. What
Mhm.
you know, like
Oh yeah,
it's
like
it's
some
not,
people do microdosing, like almost daily. I think there are people who do that or whatever. Like,
but because if you think about it, if I do mushroom for a month, I should be able to sustain that connection without the mushroom.
correct. Yeah. If you've changed, but
I'm
So,
with you
I
guys.
should be able to
But-
maintain that state if I do mushrooming long enough. Because you say if I am generating the connections, I should be able to train my brain to build that connection over time and have it become a solid connection.
mhm.
And so my question would be, if I do for a month
Just like my dad said.
and I stop using, do I still have it or would it go away?
How's it going? We well here let's we're a little off track. So let's put a pin on this one. We can pick this one up later on because I'll probably end up reading the Michael Pollan book. I love Michael Pollan. I think I've read
I
3
think
of his
you'd like
books so far. So yeah, so let's pick this one up when we get to the Michael Pollan book, because I'll probably write about that. But a good conversation all around either way. Always love doing these things. So
Drew, I'll let you know too when I do a psychedelic.
Yeah, I would love to. I would love to see it. I want to know. I want to know what happened.
yeah, I did too. Come back and let's tell us about it when you go
Yeah.
through this. But either way, thanks for joining us, and appreciate everybody for tuning in. And the question we can leave y'all is, how do you combat the resistance in your own life? And yeah, we'll see y'all tomorrow.
All right.